Before this episode begins, I'd like to say that I will be heading to DinoCon UK on the 25th and 26th of July in Birmingham. So if you see me wandering around in my podcast t-shirt, come and say hello. I have bookmarks and pin badges to give away as well. I'm really looking forward to it, and I'll see you there. This is just a warning to say that this episode features spoilers, mild language, and lots of talk about dinosaurs. Now, if that's not for you, then drop what you're doing and leave now. Hello and welcome back to Road to Rebirth. I'm Roland Squire. Each week in the lead up to Jurassic World Rebirth, I'm sitting down with a guest to discuss an entry or aspect of the Jurassic franchise. And this week, I'm talking about Steven Spielberg's 1993 film Jurassic Park. Joining me in my endeavour to discuss all things Jurassic Park is Derrick Davis. Now, for people who don't know Derrick, he's been part of the Jurassic Park fan community for nearly 20 years now. He started the YouTube channel Jurassic Time and has produced several audio dramas based on Jurassic Park scripts and properties like the Trespasser video game. We will discuss all of that in today's episode. But he's also somebody who has unearthed many hidden treasures and behind-the-scenes secrets and conducted lots of interviews with the people who were involved in the production of Jurassic Park. It's a fun conversation, so let's just dive straight in. Please welcome to the show Derrick Davis. Hi Derrick, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm excited to be talking about Jurassic Park. But first, are you excited for Rebirth?
I am, but I'm apprehensive, and
Okay.
I'll try to explain why. You know, after Jurassic World Dominion ended, it had an ending. It may not have been the best ending, but it had an ending. But then, you know, having Kep involved and having Gareth Edwards involved, which I think is great because I wish he would have done a Jurassic movie, you know, like 2 or 3 movies ago. He's such a good talent. But from the story, the fact that they're walking back the dinosaurs kind of being everywhere and now they're kind of died off, I just don't know if going back to, you know, an isolated place is really what it has led up to. I kind of wish it would have been like a midquel, like a story between Jurassic Park 3 and Jurassic World. I think that would have made a lot more sense than doing this kind of thing. But
yeah, I feel like maybe we're getting that, but that kind of story, but a sequel. When kind of looking at Jurassic Park and Spielberg's like taking of the book and things, he seems uninterested in dinosaurs out in the real world, or that being part of, because that's a big part of Michael Crichton's book and The Lost World, his sequel. But Spielberg wasn't really interested in having that in the first film, and the bit at the end of The Lost World where he just puts in the T-Rexes is kind of nod to King Kong more than anything.
And, you know, I don't really have a huge problem with that. Like, honestly, I do agree that going back to an isolated location is a lot more interesting and intense of a story than just having them everywhere and coexisting, as the end of Dominion made its message be, which I'm just like, I don't buy that. No. You know, like, I don't really, in today's world especially, I don't believe that for a second. I'm in the kind of mindset where, you know, it remains to be seen. Like, show me, let me see how you did this, and then I'll either like it or I'll not care for it that much. So I'm cautiously optimistic, I guess, is what I'm simply.
That's probably the safest thing to be, I think, for the 7th film of the franchise.
Oh yeah, but there is one thing I am definitely excited for, and that is the lagoon sequence that we're finally getting from the novel. Yeah, I'm sure you saw that coming.
Very, very excited for that.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. I mean, that sequence has such a ride, almost literally too, because it was originally going to be in the movie and it was in the early scripts and everything, which I know we'll get at. but it was also turned into a ride that they were creating before the first movie was even released, which is kind of insane if you think about that.
Yeah.
And, some people would argue, yeah, we got a bit of that in Jurassic Park 3 with the Spinosaurus, against the boat, but having a dinosaur, especially a T-Rex, is, everyone just loves T-Rex, but having any dinosaur in the water coming up from under a raft, an inflatable raft, such a thin membrane of plastic between you and whatever's underneath, that's terrifying. A lot more terrifying than being in like a sturdy boat. You know what I mean? So
yeah. And it's such a standout moment from the novel. So I take you're a fan of Jurassic Park. There's probably stating the obvious there.
just a bit, yeah.
So how do you feel about trying to sum up Jurassic Park in this one episode? Can it be done?
Oh man, I don't. The movie maybe. The book is a whole different beast. I don't know if I could sum up the whole book because it's such an interesting adaptation because it is very close to the book, but also very different from the book at the same time. It's kind of somehow able to accomplish both. It's both a good adaptation and also not at the same time. Mm-hmm. It's really interesting.
So I wondered whether you could kick us off with a synopsis for Jurassic Park.
Ooh, okay. Well, I guess let's start with the hardest. Okay, no pressure. Sorry, Michael Crichton, if I screw any of this up, or Steven Spielberg. So basically, the premise is there is an island that has secretly been cloning dinosaurs for the past few years, and they're about to open its park to the public. But before they do that, they are inviting some esteemed people, including paleontologists and a mathematician, to come inspect the island and make sure that it is safe for their guests. But unfortunately, even though the park is quite extraordinary as they tour it, something does go wrong. The dinosaurs break loose. Havoc ensues. A few people die. But at the very end of the day, they all are, I mean, not all, but several of them are able to safely escape the island, and it is safe to say that the park will not open.
No.
That's my Cliff Notes version.
Thanks. And the bit about the end, I always think about this. At the end, when the helicopter arrives, like when they first made that call, do you think they went, so how many helicopters do I need to send? Because quite a few people, no, just one helicopter will do.
Yeah, just one.
Just one.
There's like two of us left, so you just need one.
With just one. What's your earliest memory about seeing it?
Oh, that's kind of a fun story. So let's go back in time to summer of 1993. I was about 6 years old, little kid Derrick, little brat kid Derrick. And I was playing in a park, like an actual park that was not far from a big drive-in theater. We used to have a drive-in theater in our town. And I saw the movie playing on the screen without audio, just like a certain moment. I honestly can't remember what moment it was. I think it was like the lunch scene, with the projectors going and everything. I saw that.
Yeah.
And then I saw the visitor center exterior with like the dinosaur skeleton on it. And I was like, Mom, Dad, what's that movie? And they said, oh, that's Jurassic Park. I'm like, oh, I want to see that. Like, isn't that the one with dinosaurs? They're like, yeah, but it's probably going to be too scary for you. Because, I was 6 and like 90s kids weren't that, hard shelled yet. We hadn't seen all the craziness that came after. But I insisted for at least a few weeks. I was like, I really want to see it. Kids at school were starting to talk about it, which is like, oh no, well now I'm not cool because I haven't seen it. So they finally caved in, and then we went to the drive-in theater to see it, which, if anyone's ever been to a drive-in theater, depending on the quality of the few that still exist, it could be kind of a magical, unique experience, very different than any other watching a movie, honestly. Being outdoors and having cars parked around you, and they're kind of like either sitting in their car or right outside it kind of thing. And the speakers are either on a pole or it's from your car stereo, which I'm like, how did people's car batteries not die? I don't know. But so we watched it in the drive, and I remember our car was like in reverse, and like the trunk was open, and like me and my sister were like in the trunk kind of just watching it from there. And it I remember being terrified. I think especially the
Right.
T-Rex breakout, but for whatever reason, the spitter was what freaked me out the most
Mm.
because, it acts all nice at first. You're like, oh, kind of cute, and then suddenly, the hood flares open, it's spinning at him, and it's a scary moment.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do we go from 0 to 100? It's like, what happened here? So Kid Derrick was terrified. I remember having nightmares. But then for whatever reason, I got over it and I was like, I want to see it again. And my parents were like, why? You're so scared. I'm like, I don't know why. I bet I need to see it again. So then I kept going back and watching it ever since. That's been my favorite movie.
Yeah. So I don't actually remember the first. I was trying to think today that I don't actually remember the first time I watched it. I didn't see it at the cinema or a drive-in, and I think that was down to the fact that I was far too scared of the Muppet Christmas Carol that came out the Christmas before, and I hid under my dad's coat. It is. It's when the when the door knocker changes and it screams. That did me.
Yeah.
I was so that kind of nixed any of my begging to try and go and see this film when it came to the cinema. But I just always remember it being there. I remember the endless wait for it to arrive on video, which felt like it was probably about 10 years at that time. It is part of me, and I've seen it 1,000 times, including today, just before recording. And every time I see something new, and what amazed me actually today is, having just read the novel or reread the novel, is its pace and efficiency. That first scene with the raptor is just so brilliant and mysterious.
Oh, definitely. Do you mean like the prologue where we don't even see it? We just see the results of its attack. Yeah, it is brilliant.
It owes a lot to Jaws, and particularly the inciting incident. But it's a big part of Jurassic films.
Yeah, and sadly not all of them.
No,
but most of them.
Most of them. And I think David Koepp did just such a fantastic job of taking that rather wordy Crichton book and just packaging it up and making it a blockbuster film. I take it you've read the book.
Oh yeah, several times. I especially love rereading it air quotes as an audiobook, and there's a couple out there that are unabridged. My favorite being a kind of a rare one by William Roberts, where he just gets so into it. Like, especially the main road attack, like he's almost growling as he's talking. Like, it's not actually growling, but it's like you feel that visceral terror by the way he reads it, and like, oh my god. And actually, there in the 90s, there was an abridged audiobook read by the late John Hurd, aka the father from Home Alone, of all people. And it was pretty good for its time, but it's an abridged 3-hour version, so it cuts a bunch of stuff out.
I love the music of it. It has some sound effects as well, doesn't it? Yeah, I remember it has some interesting on long car journeys.
Oh yeah, and actually I took it upon myself to actually find all the music from that version. It's all stock music. Yeah, and I was using YouTube to identify it, because you know how YouTube can identify audio. So I was kind of using it to help me find it, instead of actually being a copyright strike kind of thing. It's using its own tools to help me identify things. So I was able to find, using that, all the music from that. And it was all stock music from different people. It wasn't just made by one person.
Koepp wasn't the first person to attempt to adapt this film by any means. Who was the first person to try and do this for Spielberg?
Well, the first person was actually Michael Crichton himself, which not everyone really knows. And I have some notes here, everyone, by the way, just so I don't screw up some of this history and mess anything up as best as I can. I kind of wrote a lot of this from memory, but I kind of double checked some things. But basically, Michael Crichton completed 2 complete drafts. The first one was in September of 1990, which is crazy because the novel came out in November 1990. So he was working on the script before his book was even officially published. There was galleys, what they call, early reader copies going to people involved in the production. And obviously when it was being shopped to different studios, that's the one good thing about being a famous writer at that point in his career. He was able to do that before he even published his work. But anyway, so it's just crazy to me that he was doing this script, broken down version of his own book. And the reason why he did it first was he said that in writing Jurassic Park, because it took him many years to write Jurassic Park, apparently. In fact, at one point, the novel was from the perspective of the kids, Tim and Lex, which is wild. Yeah. I wish that draft was out there somewhere to see it. But eventually became from the perspective of adults, obviously. He didn't want anyone to make any of the same mistakes he did when trying to write his own book, when he pared it down for a script. So that was the main reason why he took it upon himself. He always knew that they wouldn't use his script. It was kind of like a stepping stone for the next writers, was how it was done. So yeah, his first draft was in September 1990. And it was mostly like his novel, but it included added moments like Lex going back into the shed at the dock during the lagoon sequence to retrieve her baseball mitt. And she almost gets caught by the T-Rex while doing so. It's like, as if she wasn't annoying enough in the book and causing the Rex to come after them. She goes and does this too. So it's like he actually made her even less likable in his script for some reason. The wild thing from this script is that Hammond had a secret radio in his bungalow the whole time. Because remember, originally Hammond was kind of not a good person in the book. Yeah. So that carried over in this first script. Yeah. So yeah, he had the secret radio in his bungalow the whole time. And then when he's caught, he immediately pours water on it so no one can call the mainland. So, and this is after Malcolm's already been injured and everything. So he's like knowingly putting this guy's life on peril, in peril. And it's just wild.
What a bastard.
I know. I was like, he made him even more evil in this script. It's kind of amazing.
He had it in for him, didn't he?
Oh, yeah. I mean, he really wanted, as he explained it, the dark side of Walt Disney. Like, that's what he wanted out of John Hammond in the book. And that's what he got, especially in this. And Hammond's death in this script involves a skeleton falling on him when he's inside the visitor center rotunda after the climax has happened. And then the compies get him, kind of like in the book. So he still dies from compies, just in a different setting, basically. So those are kind of like the major things I remember from his original script that were different from the book. Because at that point, there wasn't really many ideas from the production team. It was mostly just stuff that he put in. But he did do a second draft in January 1991. There was like some revisions between that, but they were just kind of like sections. So his like second completed draft was in 1991 of January. And the most wild thing I remember from this script is that Nedry mentions how this is his second shipment to Dodgson, getting the embryos to him. It's the second time he's done this.
Oh, wow.
Meaning that dinosaur embryos have already gotten off the island. As you can imagine, the implications for the sequels, that could have completely changed everything if this detail had remained past this script. But it never went past this script. It was just this one. And I guess just a few other notes from this script. Hammond's death is in a theater room where a video of him is playing on the screen. He plays it to distract the raptors so the kids can get away to safety, during the climax. And when a raptor goes into the theater, it kills Hammond. After it kills him, it like rips apart the screen where his video is playing of him talking. It's kind of eerie. There's storyboards of that out there too.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah, that's cool.
Speaking of raptors, the opening of the script has the Tina Compy scene on the beach.
Yes.
But it seems to replace it with a baby raptor instead of a Compy. It's kind of unclear because later on in that script, it kind of makes it seem like it was a baby raptor.
Yeah.
Because I think they got rid of Compies early on. Like there was some storyboards of the Tina beach scene from before the first script even. But that's like the only time I've ever seen storyboards of the Compies. So yeah, that's the Michael Crichton. That's all he did for the movie. Okay. He did those two scripts.
Because didn't production shut down at some point?
Yeah. So production shut down, I believe, in 1991. Yeah, it was like early 1991. Pretty much not long after this script was done by Crichton, because Spielberg went to go film Hook. And during that time, his art department team continued to work while he was doing Hook. Like they didn't just all go home. Like they were still trying to storyboard sequences either from Crichton's script or from stuff from the novel still, or just ideas that they talked about from production meetings. And one of those people did something a little crazy, and that person was Rick Carter, the production designer. And he oversees all the like production of like the storyboard artists and everything, like David Lowery, or like the illustrators like John Bell and everything. But what he did was, and it's not something a production designer ever does, he cobbled together a script using Crichton's final draft script that he had provided. He took that script and kind of just rewrote parts of it. Some parts were identical, but most of like the beginning and the ending especially were completely rewritten by Rick Carter, who is not a writer. And he just plopped in these ideas and added his own kind of makeshift dialogue to bring it together. And it's a pretty unique script, which is why, me at Jurassic Time, I took a bunch of people and we created what I call illustrated audio drama of us like performing it with the actual concept art. By the way.
It is amazing.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite projects I've ever worked on, especially because it was like a group effort. It was just such a fun thing to do. The script is pretty interesting. Like there were several things that were ideas from the art department and Spielberg and the novel, and such as the lava fields, which were kind of mentioned in the novel, that the island was a bit volcanic, or it previously was, and there was still like steam in places. And it's just interesting because there's even artwork of the lava fields and how that kind of looked. But it also had a baby raptor that Grant rescues and carries it in a makeshift papoose, I guess made from like a shirt. It's a cute visual to think about, which then leads.
I suppose that ties into Dominion that we get, with Owen and Baby Blue.
Yeah, as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh my god, the papoose. it's a better version of it's a backpack. It's a bit cooler than a papoose, but we actually got that. How funny. Which in this script leads to the raptor den, which I don't remember it being in any other script except this one, that they go into, like in the novel, they go into the raptor den. It's like in the little underground tunnel. And I actually prefer the placement of this compared to the novel, because for people who've read the novel, after the big climax with the raptors in the visitor center happens, there's almost like it almost feels like a postscript section where they go find the raptor den, they count the eggs, and it always felt really random to me. Like, we don't need this. It's like I know it felt too extra. So in this script, it just happens while they're lost in the park. They'll come across the baby raptor, and it kind of like leads them in a way to the raptor den. This script by Rick Carter also had a shortened version of the lagoon sequence. Like, it's interesting. It just kept getting shorter and shorter until it was just gone completely. Just gone completely. Completely gone. But and then some interesting details though. Hammond wants Grant and Sattler to work for him at the park, which I think that's kind of a cool idea. And Hammond seems to die in every script except for David Koepp's version. So in this version, his death is in the control room, also by a raptor. But in this one, he actually falls on a model of the park, reminiscent to the one seen in Fallen Kingdom. So it's like, there's the model. It came from this. So I just found that really interesting. There's storyboards of that too. So like maybe someone saw this park model and we're like, oh, we could put that in Lockwood's Manor. And I think it was intended this way in the script and in the artwork. Like, it's kind of intended to be like, oh, the fall of his park, with him literally falling on his park kind of thing as he dies. There was also an extended ending with the T-Rex attacking the helicopter as they try to leave the island. Wow. Which, and there's artwork for that too. And it's just really. Do you think that was cut because of like practicalities or things, because I think so. And like it in a way, it's almost like how the novel went a little too extra with the raptor den. In a way, maybe this would have felt a little too extra as well in terms of the pacing. I mean, I know the reason why they added it in the first place, because this is the first time they did that, was because Spielberg did want the Rex to come back, at the end, but they just couldn't figure it out. So that was like their first attempt of doing that, was having it come back and attack the helicopter, which we ended up basically getting at the opening of Fallen Kingdom. A lot of these things went to Fallen Kingdom.
My favorite bit of the film, I think.
Easily. I think for most people it is. Like it's such a good inciting incident. So that's basically the big differences I noted from Rick Carter's draft, which is more of a working document is what they officially like to call it, because they don't want to get in trouble by the Script Writers Guild or whatever.
Yeah.
There was actually one writer after this, Malia Scotch Marmo, who actually did script work for Hook. So, Rick Carter's document was just to kind of like bring the ideas of everything together, just to kind of show Steven, like, this is how they could be integrated into the movie. So from there, Malia Scotch Marmo did her own script, working very closely with Spielberg. And, he met her through Hook. So like after he was done with that movie, he was like, oh, why don't you come along and try out Jurassic Park for us, basically. Her draft is totally different and unique with a focus on mosquitoes. Like she had very much a mosquito obsession in her script. Like they kept coming up in different ways, I guess because of the whole Amber connection.
Yeah.
But also the jungle like is slowly taking over elements in the park. Even before it opens, like things are kind of like vines coming into the visitor center where they shouldn't be, almost just to show that nature is trying to reclaim kind of thing. So it's got interesting ideas. And in this version, Hammond gets left behind on the island. So I try to remember he might stumble and fall like he does in the book. I don't remember exactly like if he's just kind of left on his own to die kind of thing. And again, he always dies until Kep comes in. So it's just funny. That's why I have an article once I wrote called The Many Deaths of John Hammond. The lagoon sequence is basically gone, but there is just like an attack during the raft ride. They still go on a raft. And I guess another big thing is Ian Malcolm is not in this script at all. Yeah. Which is interesting. But to be fair, this kind of combining or omitting characters happened with pretty much every screenwriter. It kind of depended on, like, sometimes Malcolm would be gone, or Ed Regis would be gone, or Gennaro would be gone. People remember this one for omitting Malcolm the most because this was actually the first script that leaked online many years ago.
Okay.
So yeah, for a long time, the Molly Scotch Marmo draft was the only Jurassic script available.
I think I read it years and years ago, and I remember that being like a standout thing as where's Malcolm?
Yeah, where's Malcolm? Yeah, so that's why. But it's not unique to this script, but it just kind of feels like it is to people because, again, it's the one that has been around the longest, which is odd because it was only one draft. And I'm like, who else got this and put it out there? Which finally leads us to David Koepp. And he had several drafts beginning in late April through December of 1992. Believe it or not, because David Koepp actually shared his original draft on his own website a couple of years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it has like handwritten notes on it and everything. Like it's amazing. Such a cool thing he did. From what I remember, Koepp also omitted Malcolm from his original script. So there you go. Like he took him out too. I think the reason people were scared of Malcolm being in the movie was that he was just too heavy on his theories and that people wouldn't be interested. But he got added back in. I forget if my memory's serving me right, but I think they brought Malcolm back in because of Jeff Goldblum, like his audition.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
This script also has Lex riding the baby Triceratops, which was not something that happens in the novel. Some people, for whatever reason, feel like, oh, just like in the novel. I'm like, no.
Yeah. No.
She never rides it in the novel. She plays with it kind of and talks to it, but she never actually rides it.
Yeah, I've seen the models of the little trike. Yeah,
the Stan Winston model. It was like completed, painted, and everything, but then they never filmed it. They cut it before they even filmed it, which is, I think, for the best, especially since they changed the ages of the kids.
Yes.
Having the older Lex ride a baby Triceratops, I couldn't see her doing that. But most notably in Koepp's original draft, the climax was a bit different. It was still in the rotunda with the raptors going after Grant and the others, but they're trying to get down from like the upper level of the skeletons in the Condor lift. And like the raptors just kind of like try to, jump and bite at them as like Grant's trying to operate this Condor lift to like raise and lower. And then it like knocks against the skeleton and kind of thing. So the T-Rex does not come in to save the day at the end of this original Koepp ending. Instead, John Hammond actually comes in, saving the day by shooting the last raptor standing. So he goes from, dying in every version to being the hero suddenly. So quite a journey his character went on. Yeah, that's like the biggest difference I remember from Kep's like early drafts. And that ending climax stuck around for a while, because they, as the story goes, they changed the climax with the Rex coming in to save the day kind of last minute. They kind of had to like storyboard it very quickly. In fact, if you see the storyboards that I believe David Lowery did, they're very sketch-like compared to his other ones. Like they're very loose kind of lines. So you could tell it was just a very quick thing that they chose to do and plan out. I think we could all agree that it was the right thing to do.
Yeah, I love the fact that Spielberg, he wanted the Rex to come back and he was the one that really pushed for it. And I think they probably did that even when they were filming this.
Yeah, I think the way Rick Carter explained it was Spielberg was kind of explaining that scene, like, oh, so the T-Rex comes in and it bites the raptor, blah, blah, blah. And then I think Rick asked him, like, well, where does the T-Rex come from? And then Spielberg said, from the top of the frame. Like, but of course, Rick meant like, where literally does it come from? Yeah. But Spielberg would never, he doesn't think that way. He thinks of the dramatic moment, like, oh, it comes from the top of the frame. What are you talking about? Yeah. So aren't you glad I took notes? Because that was a lot of stuff I wanted to really get right.
Good. That was fantastic. I think what's your thought about the cast that we have? You kind of Laura Dern, Sam Neill, and Jeff Goldblum.
I mean, I guess I'll just point out, I did see the movie, I think like most people, before I read the book. So yes, in a way, I was never comparing characters like that when I watched the movie, and I still don't, honestly. Like I still think of them as the characters. So I feel like the cast that he chose, and I think he did this intentionally, was very believable. I guess especially back then, they weren't really established actors. Laura Dern kind of was, and Jeff Goldblum kind of was, like from The Fly and everything, but they were never like huge movies back then. I think it was they felt very natural. You didn't feel like they were trying to just use their star power glow. And they all just felt so quirky in that special 90s way. That felt very, but like naturally quirky though, not like for quirkiness sake. Like they really felt like real people.
And I think they had such a difficult and unique job to do, because this had never been attempted before, reacting to things that weren't there. So the dinosaurs being CGI, so they really had to sell it.
No, it definitely does. And I think especially with the scientific stuff, it was so smart of David Koepp and I guess Spielberg to come up with Mr. DNA to explain the science in the informational video. Like it just made perfect sense, because that was definitely not a thing until Koepp came in and did that. I think in the previous scripts, they sometimes had a video, but it would just be like Hammond talking or Ed Regis talking kind of thing. It was just more like a typical informational video, but to actually make it be a cartoon, in a way, it's like intentionally dumbing down the science so everyone could understand in a movie. You have to, you know what I mean? Especially for, that kind of science. It's very complicated science.
It's just amazing that was, just that little scene can do all of that heavy lifting.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so much heavy lifting. I should note, too, in Koepp's original draft, for whatever reason, he actually mentions Mr. DNA having a Jamaican accent.
Right. Okay.
Instead of a Southern accent. That would have been interesting. It would have been an interesting difference.
Yeah.
The actors reacting to nothing. To be fair, though, they at least did have animatronics, like plenty of animatronics to react to. I'm sure they probably got shown concept art as well, because there was plenty of that to go around. But yeah, they definitely kind of paved the way for that, I think.
And on those animatronics, Stan Winston, the man was a genius to give everything that he created life. It, particularly, I think, in the T-Rex attack sequence on the main road and the raptors in the kitchen.
Oh yeah, and you totally buy it. Like to this day, I watch that movie and the animatronics especially, but even the CGI in many scenes really I still don't know how they really pulled it off, especially because they did movies, before and since that movie where I don't think it was pulled off as well for whatever reason.
No. You watch it now and you can't believe that is 30-year-old technology, the first iteration of it, and it still looks better than some of the stuff. I feel I sound really old now. I do understand that. It feels more real.
Oh yeah, I think part of it is honestly they spent so much time perfecting it for just this movie because they were trying to prove something. And I think that made the difference, because ever since then, they weren't trying to prove it anymore. They already proved they could do it. So they just wanted to do whatever they wanted with it after that. And it didn't mean, actually refining it to the point where, you can't tell the difference, which in many cases you couldn't tell the difference in the first movie. I think that might be part of it.
It's the two effects working in tandem, isn't it? The animatronics and the CGI, they're there to complement the story rather than being the focus. The T-Rex on the main road scene is just, watching it today, the music disappears and you feel like you're being, like the whole crew are just leaving you.
Oh man, I mean, it's basically the perfect sequence. Like, I think people who even study film say it's like one of the best sequences ever filmed for any movie, which is funny because there's actually some minor inconsistencies if you're looking out for them. but it's kind of like what I was saying earlier about, like, coming from the top of the frame. Like, it doesn't matter when you're so invested in what is happening, and like you're in the car with them, and that's just a terrifying thing to actually feel that. Honestly, like, if it was done today from a different filmmaker, they probably would have had like a ton of wide shots and everything to really show the creature more than anything else. And
you only get one, don't you, when it first steps out? That's the only kind of big wide shot. And also what I also watching it, the impact tremors and the glass shaking, and you know that it's coming. And it's like the music in Jaws, and you feels like just the ominous sense of something massive coming. And I'm so surprised that in the Jurassic World films it wasn't reused.
No, I don't think once even. I'm trying to remember if it ever got used. Yeah, it never was. But even Jurassic Park 3 used it in the opening titles, at least.
I was just, I was thinking, how amazing would it have been if they'd introduced the Giganotosaurus with that? Like, you had the rippling and the impact tremors, and then when it actually turned up, it wasn't the T-Rex, it was something much bigger, much badder. And that would have, I'd like to have seen that as a kind of introduction to that character. There was issues with the T-Rex during that scene, of course. It got very wet because it was driving rain.
Get the shakes, as they said.
It started to shake after about 10 minutes, as they had to dry it down with a towel. Well, have you ever seen this live with the kind of orchestra?
Yes, I have. Actually, I think at least 3 times. And one of them was at the famous Hollywood Bowl, which I also saw John Williams perform a couple times. So yeah, it was amazing to see him perform. It is amazing. I recommend anyone in any format to watch the live Jurassic Park.
I saw it at the Royal Albert Hall for the 25th, maybe.
Oh yeah, I think it was 25th.
Yeah, and that was just at that moment when the main road happens. And now I think of it every time I watch it. It's like the conductor putting down his baton.
And I love how, because they do an intermission for the live version, and for the intermission, they do a brief bit from The Lost World, which is great.
Yes. And I'd never thought of that being the midway, like with Nedry and Samuel Jackson's line of, we can't get Jurassic Park back online without Dennis Nedry. And you're like, that is the perfect midpoint for this film. That, of course, that is the intermission point of this story.
It's like a cliffhanger in a way, where it's like, oh no, like, what are we going to do? Like, and he's off on his own right now and doing bad stuff.
I definitely think that talking about Nedry in that whole moment, it feels like a horror film.
No, I agree. I mean, my 6-year-old self would agree, because remember, that was the scene that I lost it. I was like, oh God. I mean, the T-Rex scene was terrifying, but I guess because you kind of expected it, I wasn't as scared as a kid. But with the spitter again, I didn't see it coming really. So it was like a horror moment. Like, it's like a legit horror moment. Kind of like when the raptor attacks Ellie from behind in the shed. Like, that's like a legit horror moment there too.
That's a jump scare.
Like a horror movie trope. Yeah. Honestly, Jurassic Park, to me, it's a multi-genre story, which I seem to gravitate toward those as like my favorite kind of stories, where you can't really pinpoint exactly where it goes. Like, it's kind of a bunch of things rolled into one. So I mean, I think Jurassic Park is like a adventure sci-fi horror story. Like that's the three main groups I would put it together with. I think it's all the better for it, especially when the Jurassic World films, I feel like they lost the horror, unfortunately.
Nedry's death in the book is really gory, and it just made me think that Spielberg's so good at taking that horror and making it still terrifying but appropriate to everybody. It feels believable, the pain that Nedry goes through. We've all got something at some point in our eye, and the fact that it is that extreme close up on him rubbing at his eyes, and it's just
relatable.
Relatable horror. It doesn't need the gory detail that the book gives you.
Oh yeah, and actually I came across a Michael Crichton quote from, I think it was some magazine like Starlog or something, and he actually mentioned in this article that he was glad that the movie was not as gory as his book, because he also believes that with books you can be extra gory for effect and it's okay, because it's just the person imagining it. And in fact, you kind of have to go a little further in books to really make your point. But he says for the movie medium, you don't have to do that to sell the same point. Anyone who's criticized like, oh, I wish Jurassic Park was more like the book, in the movie form, like James Cameron Aliens kind of thing, which is funny because he almost got to do Jurassic Park at one point. But even the original author agrees, like, it didn't need to be that gory for it to be effective. And I definitely agree. Books and movies are different mediums. You don't have to be slavish.
It's interesting to think of the other people that might have got Jurassic. I mean, it always felt like it was because Spielberg and Crichton went back years. I think they first met when Spielberg was asked to take Crichton around the sets or something. I
think you're right.
For Andromeda Strain when that was being made in the early 70s. I think Tim Burton was put forward.
That would have been
Richard
wild.
Donner. I think from Superman, I suppose, because they, special effect heavy film could have dealt with it.
And the Goonies, which was an Amblin property.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, Amblin, yeah. It feels right that this is Spielberg.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, he clearly already had an interest in dinosaurs because he produced The Land Before Time, the Don Bluth animated film, which is also really good. Sad.
Yeah.
Bambi for dinosaurs. But yeah, it's no, I do think Spielberg was the right person because if they had done something more slavish to the book, like a James Cameron Aliens gory action style movie, I don't think it would have become such a cultural icon that it is now, because Spielberg made it more accessible to, I mean, I wouldn't say everyone, because kids at my age were not supposed to see it, but, it was kind of possible because it wasn't R at least. So, parents were more like, oh, okay, I guess so, kind of thing. Even though probably still shouldn't have, because it was really
But kids
scary.
love it. Kids love that kind
love
of...
to be scared.
They love to be scared. But like yourself, you understand that afterwards, like a theme park ride, that it's safe. Nothing bad happened. And I enjoyed those bits, and you kind of watch it again. And I think Spielberg understands that perfect. Because Crichton in the book, his way of writing kids is like Lex and Tim. Well, Lex in particular is bloody annoying. Spielberg always has that kid's eye view. He seems to be able to remember what it was like being a child and can put that on screen so effortlessly.
Oh yeah, and I think at that point, Spielberg already knew that kids were infatuated with dinosaurs. There was like a big dinosaur resurgence of interest in the 80s, especially like the late 80s. For whatever reason, they were like a big hot topic, and so he knew that if he made a dinosaur movie that kids couldn't see, that they would be missing out on an audience, but also, for merchandising, actually, because, they do think about those things. And, Jurassic Park certainly had quite the merchandise. I remember it was everywhere, even like the McDonald's commercials and everything. Like, it was one of the biggest marketing campaigns, I think, for any movie, maybe ever. I don't know. Like, it's definitely, it was everywhere. More than maybe Star Wars is the only one who ever had a bigger marketing campaign. It was the right call for sure. And I think at this point, Spielberg was already a parent, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I think he just had kids at that time. Because I know when he did Hook, I think that's what attracted him to do that movie, because it was about like parenthood. Like, that was Peter's happy thought at the end of Hook was that he was a father, basically. So I think that really spoke to Spielberg, and then he went on to do Jurassic Park. So I think he probably got even better at directing kids than when he started, to be honest.
We've talked a few times about continuity issues maybe with Jurassic Park, and I get, when I talk to people and people, that aren't quite as obsessed as me about the film, they're like there's quite a few, inconsistencies with the film, but there's one that I think can be attributed to Kubrick. There's a door that opens when Grant first meets Hammond in the trailer at the dig site, and he opens the door one way and then the shot changes and you see he's opened the door another way. And I think it might be a continuity error, a legitimate one. But there's a moment in The Shining. This happens when he goes in the freezer, the walk-in freezer, and Kubrick didn't make mistakes. Everything that is in his film is in there for a reason. And Spielberg was such a big Kubrick fan and obviously a friend of him. And I was thinking of the story moment of that's when the story changes, and it kind of, we leave reality. We go into Hammond's fantasy world. And so that Grant leaving his dig site with the dinosaurs in their state that he's just left them. And when he passes through that door, his life will change. And that is, I don't know. Maybe
I like that a lot.
I'm completely wrong.
No, I mean, I actually never thought of it that way, but I like that a lot. So we're just going to say it is true.
Yeah.
we're just going to say it is true, because no one's going to tell us otherwise, probably.
No.
No, it's funny you mentioned continuity in that scene, though, because the one continuity error, perhaps, that I've always noticed is the handkerchief that Hammond has when he's kind of wiping the wine bottle.
Yes.
It goes from like white to pink somehow.
Yeah.
Unless there's like a sleight of hand and he's grabbing a different one. It's really it's
I
kind
wonder,
of funny when you notice.
Because I've noticed that as well. And I wonder whether that speaks to the fact that Spielberg was directing Richard Attenborough,
Maybe.
a titan. And how do you stop somebody who is giving you a great performance to say, oh, you're using a big pink towel now? And I mean, it is ridiculous, because it is, he's using a bath towel essentially to wipe those glasses. And I think it might be Spielberg just going, I'm just in awe of watching this man, and I can't believe he's agreed to do my film.
Well, I think that's kind of the editorial choices, like him and editor Michael Kahn seem to make in a lot of his movies. Like, they don't always go for the technically perfect take. They go for just the best take in terms of performance or just in visual appeal or, what have you. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was a performance choice for that. Cause like Spielberg said with the whole, Rex coming in, it's like, you're not going to care about the technicalities when you're in the moment. So it's like the focus of the scene is what Hammond is talking about, to them, and his kind of quirkiness, not, the towel he's holding. Like, people don't really notice those things normally unless they're on rewatch like us and look for it. That's why I don't like cinema sins. It's like, it just ruins it. It's not a fun way to watch a movie. But the rumor, though, is that George Lucas actually kind of was part of the editor's room during that time and made certain choices, including recutting the Ellie in the shed scene. And that's why, and that's why John Williams' original music for that, I think it was called Hungry Raptor, was the track title. It got mostly dropped, except for like the second half of it, because the scene got recut by Lucas, so they just kind of tracked in music from earlier or later in the score. That's one of the rumors anyway. I forget where.
Yeah, I've heard that too, and I've heard the fact that he was definitely present for the editing quite heavily because Spielberg was away, I think, for the CGI, and that's what gave him the confidence to do episode 1.
So we can blame Spielberg for the prequels then, is what you're saying. for better or for worse.
Do you think that's the lasting legacy of, and not the prequels in particular, but what do you think the lasting legacy of Jurassic Park is?
Oh man, I mean, it's kind of sad in a way, because you would think the legacy would be like the best way to integrate special effects into a story and to use it well. But then, half of the sequels didn't abide by that, by its own lesson from its own franchise, in my opinion. Even comparing Jurassic World to Jurassic Park, you can't even really do it, because they're just not even, they don't have the same intent. Jurassic World the whole time is, setting up reverence for Jurassic Park in its own ways. Whether it's successful or not is up to the viewer. But Jurassic Park was just trying to prove itself, which I think is a lot more important, I think, and to just show the world, like, this is what a movie can be, and I think that's what I get from it. Like, this is how good movies can be when trying to tell an incredible story.
It's obviously I'm gonna say it's fantastic, but I think it's a classic for a reason.
Well, yeah, especially the first movie in particular, because they fly off into the sunset. It's not trying to set anything up. It's there to tell you a complete story in the best way that it possibly can. And I think there's a lost art to that these days with those kind of adventure movies. I'm also just speaking of like high budget movies, because obviously there's still plenty of great movies being made. It's a lost art of how blockbusters used to be made. Hoping, praying that Rebirth absorbs more of that. They're kind of making claims that it will. Like I said before, it remains to be seen. I'm praying for that to be the case. And I mean, they can leave breadcrumbs if they want, but it's like, don't focus on the breadcrumbs. It's just focus on this story. If I was working there, I would just have like a really small, very tiny movie. Basically, Trespasser, the movie, would be great. Like Castaway meets dinosaurs.
And speaking of Trespasser, that leads me quite nicely to talk to and ask you about Jurassic Time.
Oh man, I mean, the history of Jurassic Time, essentially, it started quite a few years ago. I think back all the way to like 2007, where I played the computer game Trespasser, which, those who don't know, that was a 1997 computer game, kind of an extension of The Lost World, the second sequel of Jurassic Park. And, kind of like how I mentioned this little fake pitch I just made, where it's like a woman is stranded on the island alone with dinosaurs and has to get off. But part of that game that was so great was Richard Attenborough reprised his role as John Hammond and read basically his memoir of John Hammond. And you hear little bits of it throughout the game. And, as the years went on, less people played the game, less people could even play the game properly without doing mods and stuff like that. To this day, you still have to kind of like set things up properly before you can play it. But I thought his performance as Hammond kind of was even better than what was in the movies, in my opinion. Like, it just really, the story he tells and the way he tells it is just kind of emotional the whole time. I really wanted to kind of capture his performance and kind of share it with people beyond the game, which was impossible, until I decided to extract all of his audio from the game. And in the game, everything is kind of placed randomly throughout locations. You just hear a random bit. There was no real storytelling narrative. I just kind of arranged it in a way that I thought was the best storytelling kind of perspective, and then I set it to music from the game, composed by Bill Brown, who was an amazing game composer. He still composes to this day, but mostly just for like smaller films. Yeah, and then I added sound effects from the game as well to kind of just make it more interesting for people, like an actual audio drama. That kind of became the thing I was best known for a while, was this audio drama version of Hammond's memoirs from Jurassic Park. And I called it Jurassic Time, which that title came from the strategy guide of Trespasser, actually, because that's what they call.
I didn't actually know where it came from. That's really interesting.
Yeah, and that's the only time I've seen it described as Jurassic Time was in that strategy guide. So I was like, well, let's call that Jurassic Time then, because that's what the strategy guy says his like memoir was called or whatever. So from there, during the pandemic, let's just say I had a lot more time on my hands to scope people out, try to interview people who were part of the Jurassic Park films. Essentially, I'll just go down the line of the biggest names, like Rick Carter, production designer Rick Carter, John Bell, the art director, David Lowery, storyboard artist. John Gurchie, he was a concept artist. Caroline Quinn, she was a art department coordinator. Even Dino Don Lessem. I even got to talk to Leo Bierenberg, the composer of Camp Cretaceous and Chaos Theory. When season 1 came out of Camp Cretaceous, I was able to get an interview with him. I think the first one really with him that anyone had done. One of the other big names is Seamus Blackley. He created Trespasser and also created a little thing called the Xbox. So when I did Rick Carter's Jurassic Park, the illustrated audio drama from his script, someone was able to help me get in contact with him. And they warned me, though, he's either going to really like it or really hate it. And I'm like, oh my God, like that's terrifying. But fortunately, he loved it. And it led to me being involved like in some art exhibits of his, because he lives in LA and I live about 3 hours from LA. So I was able to get there for some of these events. And funnily enough, I made like a Blu-ray of the Rick Carter program and I gave it to Rick. And someone there saw me do this and he recognized the Jurassic Time logo on the back. And he's like, I know who you are. And he was wearing a mask because it was like COVID was still going on during that time. So I didn't see his face initially. I'm like, who is this? And then I found out it was Seamus Blackley. And so that's how I met Seamus Blackley. And then he wanted me to interview him about not only Trespasser, but the Jurassic World game that he was involved in creating before there was a movie. Which that's a crazy story if people
we all got very excited about when we saw the trailer. I remember that.
Yeah, that little pitch trailer with the pterosaur like flying off with the surfer and everything. Like we were all so confused for years, like what that was. Like it was a part of the movie, but no, it was part of a game, which is kind of weird in a way. Like that's what it was. I spoke to all these people, and it's just amazing that they gave just a fan that kind of time to talk to them. And about these stories. And I feel like some of them, especially in the art department, they don't always get their spotlight. And I feel like they should, because when you see the illustrations of like the storyboards or the concept art and how it so often closely resembles in the final product of the movie, part of the movie's vision definitely comes from these people. Like the movies are a collaborative effort. They're not just one person. I think too often just one person does get credit, which, as amazing as Spielberg is, it isn't all him. Most of the time when people would talk about Jurassic Park in interviews and even special documentaries and videos, they would only talk about the special effects, which to me, I was getting bored to death by it. I mean, it's like, I get it. It was an amazing special effects movie, but there was so much more interesting details that went into it, including like the script writing process that we talked about and what went into the artwork and everything, the different concepts that they came up with, got rid of, and then brought back. Like there's this interesting history, especially for Jurassic Park, because it had a very long pre-production. They started pre-production in 1990, basically, when those scripts were being written. And, they didn't start filming until 1992. So, there's that much time, years of pre-production. That's not really normal, especially these days. Like Jurassic World Rebirth didn't get that. No. Speaking of Jurassic Park scripts from earlier, I have to mention that I was also a consultant on Jurassic Park, the official script book that Inside Editions did back in late 2023. And that alone was quite an experience. We spent months working on like the interior of the book. I donated a bunch of images for them to use that were part of the concept art from the original Jurassic Park. A lot of rare images that were not in the previous Jurassic Park Ultimate Visual History book. So it's definitely one of the more proud things I've done. And I definitely think most Jurassic Park fans would love it. I mean, it came from a fan, working hard at it. So, I have to thank James Lovegrove, the writer of that book, for getting me involved and for, kind of giving my own personal touch to the whole thing. But yeah, I think it turned out pretty well. Apart from the book cover, a lot of people criticize the book cover, and I don't blame them. That was like the one thing I had zero involvement in. So I'm really proud with how it turned out. So I do hope people enjoy it if they check it out. But anyway, back to Jurassic Time. So yeah, all those interviews, kind of got me more notice, and especially the Rick Carter's Jurassic Park program, because I got noticed by Rick Carter. So that was like, to me, that was like the ultimate confirmation that I was doing something that people appreciated, which is I wanted something that had either a quality to it or something that people just had interest in, that people wanted to know about these stories.
And you're now telling a story with your first book, Invertiverse. Please tell me a little bit more about it. I've read the first, you sent me the first few chapters, and I love it. I'm hooked. I'm in. I'm
great.
Ready.
Great.
So yeah, can you give me a little synopsis and kind of tell me where the idea came from?
Yeah. But yeah, the full synopsis, and I'm just gonna read it. Dangerous creatures, peculiar disappearances, mysterious urban ruins. It was easy for David Andrews to be entranced by Juniper Valley's legends, but when his obsession causes the death of his closest companion, David's entire life becomes derailed. Years later, an alarming incident leads him and an estranged friend into the depths of their town's chilling history. A startling discovery lies in wait that will force them on a frantic journey across the multiverse. Alternate worlds with vicious monsters and treacherous landscapes won't be their only challenges. They will have to overcome their own haunted past if they ever wish to return home. And there is also a chance that David can finally confess his true feelings to the same person he had lost. And that last bit right there, where it's like, oh, I hope that brings them in.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, what does that mean? But no, I'm glad you're enjoying it so far. And I'll just slightly give away, because you did read the prologue, especially the inciting incident, which or a inciting incident. I wouldn't call it the inciting incident of my story, but it is a inciting incident that does become referenced and is important later on. But it's very much a Stephen King inspired opening, Children in Peril. So it's like Spielberg and Stephen King kind of opening chapter, Child in Peril. Because I feel like if a child is in peril, that means anyone is game. But as for like the inspiration for this story, it had been in my head for many, many years. I remember I did a really weird version of the story in high school that was centered around like the Bermuda Triangle, where the Bermuda Triangle was like a portal to another world, basically, and they get sucked into like a whirlpool, essentially. There's definitely concepts in here that are 20 years old, which is really nuts. But no, I've been working on this book specifically for about a decade, which is also kind of crazy, because I was trying to juggle like real life work and stuff like that as I'm trying to write it. And it just wasn't clicking properly until, again, when the pandemic happened and I suddenly had more time to devote just to the book. And that's where I think it really found its footing finally. At the same time, and I don't recommend this, but I was actually having illustrations created while I was writing the book. Like even before I had a first draft done, I had like outlines done, but there was no actual draft, and I was already getting artwork made for it from various people. But another unique thing I did, because I've always loved orchestral film scores, and I feel like I've always been a struggling composer in my head. I tried to learn music when I went to college briefly, and it was like an introduction to music class. But on the first day, they already assumed you knew how to write notations. And I'm like, I don't know how to do that. So I had to drop it. It was really upsetting because I really wanted to learn. So, I always had themes in my head ever since high school again. I always had music themes in my head. I would hum as I walked home from school and everything. But then when I was coming up with the story, I just had this weird idea, like, what if the book had its own soundtrack? And I found various people who could play music by ear. So I would hum out every track and they would replicate it based on my humming. And it's kind of a thematic score, like different characters have different themes and different ideas, and they kind of play off each other at times. So yeah, I just really wanted the story to be almost as much as a movie without actually seeing one. And that's why I wanted all this concept art for it. And the art is in the book, except for the ebook versions. I actually tried putting artwork for the ebook digital versions, but the thing with ebooks is they're formatted in a way where if certain devices, things won't look right. And I tested it out and it just looked really bad. So I was like, you know what? I would rather just not have art in the ebook version because it just ruined it, especially because there's a lot of like fake logos in the story. And actually for Jurassic Park fans, John Bell actually did a piece of artwork for Invertiverse. There's a vehicle. Yeah, because John Bell, for those who don't know or remember, he was the art director of Jurassic Park, and he did various concept art illustrations, including for the vehicle designs. Like he designed the look of the Ford Explorer and the Jeeps, and for the Lost World as well. He did all those vehicle designs. So he's a car aficionado, so it makes sense. And for Invertiverse, I asked him to design a fictional vehicle for me called the Rocket Lodge, which is basically a souped up mobile home. And I wanted it to be very futuristic looking and just like really impressive and have like a vibrant design. It's great. He did such a great work designing it. It's incredible.
You mentioned about Stephen King and Steven Spielberg, and it has that element to it very much. I think you've really captured a sense of place. You know, it's a landscape that I don't know at all, and the shadows and the creature and all of it was just really great. And again, what I talked about earlier about kind of writing kids as well, it's really difficult to get their point of view, and I think you did that. You've done that really well. No,
thank you. I mean, that's really good to know, because I mean, you writing for kids, and I think writing for females, I was worried because later on in the story there is a female POV or perspective, and I'm a male, and I'm like, I don't want to write for a woman in a way that doesn't feel genuine. You know what I mean? And it's hard for me to do that. You know, it's like, I don't know. Thankfully, the few people that have read the whole story, the female character, they actually like the best. Like it's their favorite character usually by the end of the story, especially. So I'm like, nice. Oh, thank God. You know, it's like more relieved than happy in a way that I seemingly made it work. And I loved writing for her. So I think maybe that's what showed, because I gave her a fun personality, I guess you could say. But she gets the best dialogue. You know, I always gave her like the best dialogue every time. Yeah, I like influences for writing, definitely Stephen King, but also obviously Michael Crichton. I'm sure you can feel the Crichton, inspirations oozing already in the text. But I will say there are a lot of dinosaur references later on, or there's a few Jurassic references still to come. And I'll just spoil this because you do see artwork when I begin advertising the story. There's a thing that I call pygmy pets, which are these small versions of pets for people to have of bigger animals. For example, people have like dog-sized versions of giraffes, rhinos, bears, and, they never grow past a certain size, which was definitely inspired by an idea from Crichton's book that somehow never got used in any of the movies. No. I don't think it's going to be in Rebirth either. So I'm like, oh, how did they not tap into this? In the story, they do go in and out of different universes. I wanted it to be this really kind of fun, frantic adventure while still having an emotional core that I think people could relate to. And that definitely comes in the form of the protagonist, David Andrews. It's supposed to be like an emotional journey for the characters, and they go through growth. Because the thing is, a lot of multiverse stories with like Marvel right now. And I even try to make this be a point in like the product page for selling the book, where it's like, this isn't like a comic book superhero movie. These are ordinary people with relatable stuff going on in their lives that are thrown into this, fish out of water style adventure. Like they're not scientists. They're just like us, basically, maybe some nerdier than others, but that's about it.
But I think from what I've read so far, you've got some amazing setups to a story and some really great characters as well. And characters, are, the be all and end all of all stories. So when is it released?
It is coming out June 3rd. Which is, just in time for Jurassic June, right? There's some dinosaur elements in the story, so it fits. I'll probably, by the time this episode comes out, I'll probably already be promoting it for pre-orders, so you might be able to pre-order it now, which you could do so at derrickdavismedia.com. There'll be various links for you to go to, because they'll be available at most places books are sold, including Amazon, And also it could be ordered through local bookstores and stuff like that. So there's definitely a lot of ways you can get multiple versions of this book. It'll be available in hardcover and also paperback. And of course, the ebook I mentioned, but again, the ebook does not have pictures. So
how else can people find you?
Yeah, and the easiest way is DerrickDavisMedia.com, and there are there's ways to contact me. There's also like a Facebook page, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, and Blue Sky as well. Like they're all on there, so you can reach me in those ways. Also, you can reach me through Jurassic Time, the jurassictime.trustcom.org. There's various social media platforms there as well, and also I sometimes do articles for a little website called Jurassic Outpost. So, and I'm sometimes on their podcast as well. So you can find me there. So I'm kind of all over the place right now. So if I feel like mentally I'm all over the place, that's probably why.
I'm just going to say thank you so much for joining me today. It has been an absolute pleasure of mine. As being a fan of everything that you've done with Jurassic Time, I don't know how many times I've actually listened to John Hammond's memoirs. It has aided me going to sleep many times and lulled me on train journeys. It is a joy to listen to, and the Rick Carter Jurassic Park audio drama is amazing as well.
Thank you for having me. This was great. I hope you get a nice big following from people listening, because I think you're really great at hosting these, and I'm not just saying that. It's like it's hard to do. It is hard to, really find a way to, capture a person, in a conversation like this. And I think you did a great job. So thank you for having me, for sure.
Thank you to Derrick again for that conversation, and I really hope you enjoyed everything that we talked about. In the show notes for this episode, you'll find all of Derrick's links, so please go and check out his website and Invertiverse, which actually, since our conversation, I have finished, and I'm a huge fan. I really enjoyed it. It perfectly blends the Amblin sensibilities with Stephen King. There's even, I think, connections to films like Labyrinth and Neverending Story. So yeah, please go and check out all of that. And also, I'd just like to say thank you very much to everybody who's rated this podcast so far after one episode. That is amazing. Thank you very much. I've got so much more planned for you in the future. So please remember to subscribe to this podcast and follow me on Instagram at Road to Rebirth Pod. Next week, I'm looking at The Lost World, the novel by Michael Crichton, and I've got 2 special guests. So I've got my continuation of my conversation with James Lovegrove, and also I've got author Guy Adams, and we're talking about his take on Michael Crichton as an author. But for now, I'll just say thank you very much for listening, and goodbye.